7 homeless people died in this city over Easter. It showed the reporter on the programme trying to make telephone contact with the 24-hour emergency homeless service. He started ringing them at 10 p.m, didn't get through until after midnight, and was then told that there was no bed available. And the programme went on to explain that a number of facilities which have been built and provided with public money are either not open or are operating at under their capacity because the money hasn't been provided to staff them. It showed, for example, that there's a facility on James's Street, 30-bed unit, built at a cost of €7 million, which is not yet open because the money hasn't been provided for staffing. It showed that in Cork Street, that only half of the 23 units designed for families are in use. In Brunswick Street, only 7 of the 17 units in use. And similarly in Abbey Street, a facility which has been provided there for homeless people congregating on the boardwalk along the river is not functioning. Now, I raised this Taoiseach with you, this very issue with you, on the 28th of February, when I drew your attention to reports at the time that cutbacks in the Health Service Executive were resulting and would result in facilities for homeless people not being made available. And you told me at the time that there were no cutbacks in existing services and that there were going to be no cutbacks in new services. My first question to you is, do you now accept, following last night's programme, that there are in fact cutbacks, that these services are not operating? And secondly, can you tell us when these services for homeless people will be fully operational and when the money that is necessary to staff them will be provided? The Taoiseach's reply is a description of a failure of government. This is an area where there is a national strategy. There's a national homeless strategy. All of the different agencies got together and agreed how all of this was going to be tied up and what pieces was going to follow what pieces. And what the Taoiseach has just described now is a failure of government to coordinate it and to make it happen. The fact of the matter is that beds for homeless people have been provided. They're available. These units were built and are available, but they're not available to the homeless people. Homeless people can't get to them. You ring up at 10 o'clock at night, first of all you can't get somebody on the phone, and 2 hours later when you do get somebody on the phone, they tell you there's no bed available, and there's no bed available because somebody somewhere, between the Minister of State who's responsible for homelessness and the HSE and the homeless agencies and the different bodies that local authorities and the Minister for the Environment hasn't got the act together to make one thing follow the other so that the beds are provided. And meanwhile, if you walk around these streets 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, you'll find where they are. And I would invite ministers to get out of their cars and to take a walk around these streets and to look, for example, St Anne's Church on Dawson Street, the European Parliament building, which is just down the roadway, the old Habitat shop on Stephen's Green. You'll find them in the doorways from 8:30, 9 o'clock at night up to 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're in those doorways because somebody over there hasn't got their finger out to make sure that the money and the resources are provided so that these beds that have been built with taxpayers' money are made available to the homeless people. And I think there's a need now for some urgency to be put into this, and I'd like the Taoiseach to tell me, when are these beds that are already provided, they're available, they're up there, they're not open, the door is locked on them, when are they going to be made available to the homeless people who are lying in doorways around the streets within a half mile of this building?